Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen, and this show is The Sweat. You watch it nightly from 6 o'clock Eastern Time to 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Jessie, Coffield, Emerson, Lotzia, we got lots on tap for you tonight. Take it away, Jessie. Including
another edition of In the Show or No with Nomar Mazara. You're going to take care of that
yes,
one.
I will.
We got tons of golf help on the way, but we're going to start with a 15-game slate in baseball.
Say hello to tonight's panel. DK Live, Steve Buchanan, Julian Edlow. We've got the Athletics' Jonah Carey also on with us this evening. Guys, it is chase or fade. And Giancarlo Stanton slated to play his first game since March 31st. So his odds to homer tonight, follow me here, against the Rays, plus 230. So chase or fade. Jonah, we'll start with you, that Stanton sends presents to the people.
Yeah, I mean, a good turn of phrase there, but I'm going to fade this one. The Rays are number one in baseball, both in ERA and fielding independent pitching, so I don't like the matchup that much. The only thing I will say, though, is it's an interesting night because it's an opener strategy for the Rays. So Ryan Stanek, very tough right-hander, 554 OPS allowed against right-handers. I don't think Stanton gets to him. If it were to happen, I still fade it, but if it were to happen, Ryan Yarbrough has been kind of rough lately as a starter. They're making him turning him back into a bulk reliever this evening. He's a left-hander. He's vulnerable. So if it were to happen, I would say then, but I'm still fading.
Okay, Steven, where are you going on this, man?
Yeah, I'm going to fade this one as well. And, kind of like what Jonah was saying, like Yarbrough has been rough lately, but one thing he has been doing is he has been giving up a ton of home runs. And with that, the majority of Stanton's power comes against righties, not against lefties. Last year he had 13 home runs against lefties, which, for a layman is really good, but for Stanton, majority of his power comes against righties here. And then the Rays bullpen is one of the best, too. So once Ryan Yarbrough's out of there, they get some really good relievers on the back end there, too, as well. So it's great for the Yankees lineup. They're just continuing to bolster and get more and more powerful. It seems like every single day at this point, but I'm going to fade that he hits a home run tonight.
All right, Jules, chase or fade that Giancarlo Stanton hits a home run tonight. If my memory serves me correct, he wasn't fantastic these last couple days in AAA.
No, this is just way too easy of a fade, especially at this number. Like, do we really think Stanton's going to homer in his return? Probably not. But if you could offer me like plus 500 or something, maybe I would buy into the talent. But as these guys mentioned, we have a guy that hasn't homered in so long. He hasn't been that great. He's coming back from injury in his first game against one of the best pitching staffs in baseball. And now we him at just plus 230 to homer in his first game since March 31st. It's just not good odds on a guy that's shaking off some rust against a really good pitching staff.
Guys, DK Sportsbook has Justin Verlander's over-under for strikeouts at 8.5 against the Reds, who are near the bottom of the league in terms of total strikeouts by their offense. So chase or fade, Verlander stays under 8.5 Ks, Steve.
I'm going to fade this one. I mean, it's hard to fade a guy who's just coming off 15 strikeouts in his last start there. So, and look, he's hit the over on this on the 8.5 5 times already this season. And the Reds have a pretty high K percentage against righties, 24.3% on the year. They're not a very patient team either, the 17th in walk percentage. So I have no problem taking the over on this one here with Verlander. We know he's one of the best strikeout pitchers in the league against a team that's not going to really wait around for pitches either. So I'll take the over on this one.
Julian, what do you want to do? You want to chase or fade that Verlander stays under 8.5 Ks?
I'll chase him staying under. Sure, it sounds great when Steve says he's done it 5 times this season, but Verlander's only gone above 8.5 Ks in 4 of his previous 14 starts. When you say it that way, it doesn't sound quite as good. Yes, he had 15 in his last start. That's great, but how many times is he going to do that? The Reds are right around the middle of the pack. They strike out 8.73 times per game this season. Verlander's right on this number, around 8.33 Ks per start. That's 1.25 per inning, but I just don't see much of an edge here to go with the over. I mentioned his big game last week, 15 Brewers in 7 innings. He has the upside to do it. That's great, but he's due for some regression coming back from that game. His previous 3 starts before that Brewers game, he failed to surpass this number. So when you look at it the other way, 4 out of 14 starts that he's surpassed this number this season, I'll take those 10 times that he's gone under.
Yeah, he's due for some regression. His arm is so tired from all those strikeouts. He's definitely due for some regression.
He's due to pitch the way he's pitched all season. 10 times out of 14, didn't surpass the number.
Okay.
Okay, Jonah, do you want to chase the under here?
Yes, I do want to chase the under, mostly because I want to go against Steve. Look, you're wrong, Steve.
Yeah.
And because you're smart like me.
There you go. Julian had it right. The 4 out of 14 is Jermaine, certainly. But here's the other factor. This game is happening in a National League ballpark. So there's two scenarios here. Either the Astros are demolishing the Reds, which is a pretty reasonable scenario. The Astros are gods. I could easily see that happening. In which case, they're going to pull the guy. 6 innings. See you later. He probably won't get his 9 strikeouts at that point. Or if it's a close game, then you can flip it around and you can say, well, you know what? The Astros might want to get a pinch hitter in there. They have a pretty potent bench and they could want to pull him out of the game. So Verlander getting all these strikeouts over, under, whatever, and mostly under is happening. Those are happening in AL parks. Now it's an NL park that introduces another variable which could get him out of the game earlier. I'm sure he'll pitch well this evening. I just don't see the 9 strikeouts.
All right, guys, the Red Sox are on their longest win streak of the season. It is now 6 in a row. I believe they're 6 games over 500, which is also a season high. So they're road favorites again tonight against Minnesota. You can get minus 118 on Boston, plus 104 on the Twins. So chase or fade that actually Minnesota plays Buzz Killington here and ends this win streak. Jules.
I'll chase Minnesota ending the win streak. I chased it last night. I thought Rick Porcello would implode in Minnesota, and I was incorrect, so I'm just going to do it again tonight. It's an interesting spot. David Price has been good this season. Michael Pineda's been shaky at times, but I just think that the Twins are the better team. The Twins are a left-handed heavy lineup, but when you look at what they're throwing out there tonight, they have some heavy-hitting righties at the top of the order to go against Price. They scatter some good bats in there late in the order. I just think it's a tough lineup for Price to get through. And although Boston's bullpen's been really good over the last week, 10 days, we've saw how poor they can be earlier in the season. I think that's who they really are, and they're just overperforming right now. The Twins have the better overall offense. They're at home. I think that they're going to get back on track and stop this Red Sox win streak, which is a little bit of a fluke because they won 3 games in Baltimore along the way.
A win is a win, Julian. Jonah, are you on Julian's side here?
Yes, I am. Once again, I do like this one. Look, the Twins are a home dog. That's preposterous. The Twins might be the best team in all of baseball. Any kind of odds on the positive side, you got to love that. So that's certainly a strong one. You look at Pineda, he has been shaky. I will say 6 starts in a row, exactly 3 earned runs allowed, and his last time out against Seattle, 5 2/3, 1 earned run allowed. Not terrible. And the Twins lead the major leagues in batting average, on base, and slugging against left-handers. David Price throws left-handed, so yes, Kepler, all these great left-handed hitters on the Twins, but the Twins smoke you with their right-handed bats too. So this is a strong team. They cannot be a dog against anyone, least of all at home. I'm going to take that one.
Yeah, Steve, the Twins have the largest division lead in baseball at 10 games. You think they roll tonight and snap this win streak?
Well, first of all, Julian said he was wrong about something. Color me shocked. No way. Is that really
well, maybe right this time, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, this was an easy layup here. Of course you take the Twins whenever they're facing a lefty. This is one of the best hitting teams against lefties on the season. We just saw David Price come off one of his worst starts of the year against the Rangers. Another good team against lefties. Only went 1 1/3 innings, 6 runs on 5 hits. Price has been good all season long. Could that have been a blip on the radar of that last start? Yeah, potentially. But even if David Price does do well in this game, then you have to deal with that Red Sox bullpen. And when I say deal, I mean the Red Sox fans have to deal with it, not the Twins. They can go and tee off on that bullpen. They still remain one of the worst in the league. So I absolutely love the Twins in this spot. I wish the odds were a little bit better here, but it's close to even money, so you can't complain about that.
Well, the Giants and Dodgers have the lowest run total on the evening at just 7.5. Sean Anderson, Clayton Kershaw are the starters for this one. So Jonah, chase or fade that this is an easy under?
What kind of respect are we giving to Sean Anderson? This is not an easy under. I'm fading this thing. Sean Anderson's not good at baseball. When did this happen? Among 237 pitchers this year with 30 innings pitched or more, he's 225th in strikeout rate. He's not fooling anybody. He's not particularly good. And this is not a situation that's going to bode well for him because the Dodgers, by park-adjusted offense, WRC plus, if you will, are second in the majors against right-handers. They smoke right-handers. Sean Anderson is a bad right-hander. Look, this is a number that the Giants aren't probably going to fill up much of, but the Dodgers can win this game 6-2, no problem. I have the over in this one, so it's a fade for me.
Steve, you want to agree with Jonah on this one?
Yeah, Jonah really explained that well. I mean, realistically, the Dodgers could get 6-7 runs in this game against this Giants pitching staff. Their bullpen isn't that great. Pitching staff isn't that great. I mean, just the Dodgers have just been annihilating the ball lately. And then, Kershaw, whatever. Clayton Kershaw, Matt LaMarca's boyfriend. We all know that there. I mean, he's been decent at times, you know what I mean? But this is just such a bad offense for the Giants. He should keep them in this game there. But realistically, the Dodgers should be in a really good spot here against this pitching staff. So I don't think it's an easy under. I think that actually leans more towards the over.
LaMarca really is obsessed with that guy.
Yeah.
Like, you nailed that. I'm chasing that all day.
Okay, well, Julian, do you want to make it 3 for 3?
I will make it 3 for 3. Even 9 of 11 Kershaw starts this season have had 7 or more runs, so it puts you right in the neighborhood of this 7.5 at least. And then Sean Alexander, just not good, and he hasn't even had much of a test so far this year. He's only pitched in San Francisco, at Citi Field, which is another pitcher's park, and then at Camden Yards, which, although it's a hitter's park, is against a really poor lineup. So starting this game in Dodger Stadium will be his toughest test. If you don't want to go for over the 7.5 here, you could maybe even just play the Dodgers team total over, because it sounds like all of us think that the Dodgers are going to have a really good offensive outing here. So while I think it goes over 7.5, if you want to be a little bit safer, you can just look at the Dodgers team total and go over there.
All right, we're going to need you guys for Tears of Joy coming up. Steve, you are going to put up your bukes also later in this show. That's right after Reed and Jeff are going to help us with some price check ahead of the Travelers Championship.
Brendan Glasheen here, and with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. A puck trade. The New York Rangers acquired Jacob Trouba from the Jets Monday. Winnipeg receives Neil Pionk and the 20th overall pick in this weekend's NHL Draft. Trouba led Jets defensemen with an NHL career best 50 points, 8 goals, 42 assists. That includes 18 points on the power play in 82 games this season. He had 1 assist in 6 Stanley Cup playoff games. Rangers GM Jeff Gorton excited about snagging the 25-year-old Trouba. He's in the prime of his career. The opportunity for a player like that to become available doesn't happen all the time, and we jumped on it. Had conversations that led to this, and here we are. The Rangers didn't generate much on their power play this past year, ranking 17th in the league at 19.4%, and Trouba will help them in that category significantly. The former first-round pick is set for first-team power play usage, which elevates other Rangers fantasy-wise, like center Mika Zibanejad, who logged career bests in points with 74, as well as power play points with 23. The Wings will take the help as well, and I'm sure Henrik Lundqvist will appreciate Trouba's consistency in front of the net.
Well, we are just googly-eyed for our golf gurus. Popping up on your screen right now. That's going to be DK Live's Jeff Ulrich and Reed Fowler here for some PGA price check ahead of the Travelers Championship later on this week.
Yeah, Reed, I know we were talking about a little earlier about Patrick Cantlay, one of the most expensive players here this week. He's been fantastic as of late, though. Let me look at my stats, finishing in the top 10 in 4 of his last 5 events. So is he worth rostering, though, at 11-3? That seems pretty pricey.
Yeah, I think he is. When you look at what he's been able to do, and this is some revisionist history, but when you look at his finishes and then his price tag from those finishes, you say, well, it doesn't matter, right? And the ownership never matters, because when he wins, like he did the Memorial, when he has these top finishes throughout the entire season, it really doesn't matter. So I'm going to say yes here. I'm going to say if you just look at his rolling report on strokes gained ball striking, which takes sort of the long term from 50 rounds to 36, 24, so on, to his most previous, this guy has always been in the top 10, top 5 of long form and then short term. But even if you look at Pete Dye courses, which this is, he doesn't rank outside the top 2 or 3 over the last 24 rounds all the way down to the last 4 rounds. And so this guy is hitting it extremely well. He's not hitting a lot of fairways, but at this course, it's really easy to hit the fairway. And we could go low here if there's no wind. There is some weather concerns on Thursday and Friday, but if that clears up, we've seen low scores here. We've seen a 59 shot here before. So I think he's a solid play at this price tag.
Hey, Jeff, he finished T15 here last year, so maybe some course history on his side.
I mean, there's definitely course history on his side. The guy shot a 60 here the first year he played. So, look, it's a good setup for him. And if you're asking me who you should take, Cantlay or Koepka, I would definitely lean Patrick Cantlay. That being said, Patrick Cantlay's price is kind of out of control at this point. I mean, he is $1,500 more than Justin Thomas. He's almost $2,000 more than Paul Casey this week. I mean, you are paying the absolute top here. So I don't think he's like a must roster at this price. I think he's just a little bit too expensive. Doesn't mean he doesn't deserve to be the second highest priced player in this field, because Reed mentioned the ball striking and how well he's played. He does, but at the same time, I just don't see the need in this deep a field when you have players like the two I just mentioned under 10K, that he's necessarily a guy you have to go out there and have to roster. I don't see that, especially coming off a U.S. Open where he was not really in the mix, but he was up there, so could be some fatigue. But yeah, playing well, but overpriced for me.
Jeff, Phil Mickelson is $8,700 this week. Now, he hasn't been playing great. He missed the cut in 4 of his last 7 events. So would you stay away from him considering the price?
I mean, you have to look at Phil. It kind of depends on what format you're playing. I'm not putting Phil in a cash game lineup, but he's definitely on my GPP radar, and I think he should be on most people's. It's going to be like 5% owned or less. Like, no one's playing Phil this week. Everyone's talking about the guys in the low 8K, the high 7K range. That's where everyone's going because there's good value, and all of these guys look great because they're either coming off good U.S. Opens or they have good ball striking stats. Whatever. Phil has won at this event twice. He likes these shorter, easy courses because he racks up the birdies. If he makes the cut, he's probably going to be a good DraftKings play. I really like it just from the ownership perspective on its own. I think you're going to get Phil Mickelson at half or less than half of some of these other players down there, like a Charlie Hoffman or a Kokrak or a Grillo for sure. He might be a fifth of the ownership of Grillo this week. So I actually really like Phil, and I like this whole range, actually, like going down to Patrick Reed, too, for GPPs, because I think these guys are getting ignored, and they are classier players than the players underneath them. So, yeah, give me some Phil this week.
Reed, how do you feel about Mickelson at 8,700?
So if anyone's watching the show and they watched it last week, Jeff and I had a head-to-head bet, Molinari and DeChambeau. The first thing that's going to be on that whiteboard. We're talking about Phil
here, buddy. We're talking about Phil.
Hey, chill out. Let him finish.
That's going to be on that whiteboard is my favorite analysis is whatever by Jeff Ulrich. That's my favorite analysis that Jeff always pulls out. Well, whatever. But I'd love to disagree with Jeff. You know, this is one of my favorite things to do. It's a pastime that I love, but he is 100% correct. When you look at Phil and you look at his stats, like, I mean, you're just going to glance over this guy, right? 8,700, that price tag. He's just, you know, any stat that you look at, he's in the hundreds or the 80s. But man, 3% for this guy, like Jeff mentioned, in this field, when you have the Justin Thomases, the Paul Casey's, Patrick Reed's, the Cantlays up there, the Molinaris, the Shambles, these guys are all here, right? They're all here probably getting these reps a couple or a few tournaments before we go over to Europe, either taking a couple weeks off before that to practice in their, you know, at their home courses or their home tracks, or even going over to Europe and playing in some of those. So all of these guys are getting all of these reps in. And Phil Mickelson, I mean, this is exactly where you want a guy like Phil at 3 or 5% owned. I mean, if you want that GPP play where you want to start with Brooks and go down to Phil as your first 2, I don't mind that at all. But you really have to look at stats and throw them out the window. We saw Phil, what he's able to do on these shorter tracks on POA greens. I mean, he won at Pebble. It's a different course, but shorter track. It's sort of a Pete Dye-esque design where you need ball striking. You don't need distance. And really, that's Phil's game. He loves POA greens. So I absolutely love this play.
Reed, how much do you love Jason Kokrak? The guy's averaging around 75 points a tournament, which is one of the best in that statistical category. 16 for 16 on cuts made. So you know, like everyone watching at home, that's going to bring consistency to your DraftKings lineup. So do you like him for 8,300?
Yeah, he's going to be an extremely popular play. You're looking at probably when we get to Thursday as 20% plus, and that's what we've kind of seen with Kokrak, that he kind of has been going on this streak. It's a little bit like Patrick Cantlay in the sense that his stats, I mean, he's playing extremely well. He played extremely well. He didn't do so hot in recent form, but this is going to be a popular build when you see Koepka or Cantlay up top, and we go down here and Grillo, Kokrak's down here, right? Hovland is going to be a popular play. This guy gained the most strokes getting off the tee last week, and now he turned pro. He's going to be another popular one, all the way down probably to Ryan Moore. So it's a very popular range, rightfully so. This price tag, it doesn't scare me because this is where we usually see Kokrak. It's the ownership that I'd rather kind of get away from a little bit, even though he's doing pretty well. There's other guys in this price range that Jeff's probably going to mention that if you want to play GPPs, I'd rather go elsewhere with, you know, someone that's of lesser owned.
Okay, Jeff, U.S. Open, he missed it last week. He's going to be well rested.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually a significant thing because the winners of this event, 6 of the last 8 when it's been played after the U.S. Open, haven't played or missed the cut at the U.S. Open. So it's a good thing for Kokrak. I think he's good chalk this week. Like, I don't mind paying up for Jason Kokrak. I think I'd much rather play him over Ches Reavie or Kevin Streelman. Kokrak's been consistent. He's putted better this year. I think between him and Charlie Hoffman, it's really close. Might slightly lean Hoffman, but I wouldn't put anyone off Jason Kokrak this week. He didn't play that great at the Memorial, but who cares? I mean, it was a tough course for a lot of people, and he's actually played okay at the Travelers. Definitely did well at the Valspar, which is a comparable venue to this one. So I like Kokrak at 8,300. I think it's a fine price for a guy who's made 16 to 16 cuts, got himself in contention, a lot of top 20s this year. Like you're not overpaying for this player at this point, and I think he's been better than pretty much every other player in this range. So I like Kokrak even if he's chalky.
Good stuff, guys. Please take a break right now. We will be right back with our baseball panel.
Tyler Sullivan here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. The confetti from the Raptors championship parade hasn't even been swept off the streets of Toronto yet, but the focus has already shifted to Kawhi Leonard's upcoming free agency. The Finals MVP is set to hit the market later this summer, and it appears to be a two-team race. According to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski, Leonard is focused on Los Angeles, but it's not to join LeBron and AD and the Lakers. Rather, it's the Clippers who are in position to hand him a max deal while returning to his hometown. The Clippers are viewed as the top team to lure Kawhi away from Toronto, but the Raptors can't be slept on to re-sign the star forward either. After all, Toronto did just win the championship with Leonard leading the show and can give him a 5-year, $190 million deal. Other teams are limited to a 4-year, $141 million max deal, so he'd be giving up nearly $50 million to sign elsewhere. The pull towards home will be strong, but the Raptors have made a very strong case to keep Leonard north of the border thanks to that shiny Larry O'Brien trophy in hand.
All right, we are back to baseball here on The Sweat, and some news here. The Phillies and Nats game gonna start in a rain delay again tonight.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, gonna happen again. Rays, Yankees too. So something to note for everybody's lineups here. Okay.
Yep. As you're building, especially as you're building your team in Tears of Joy, which we have right now. Steve Buchanan, Julian Edlow is back, as well as Jonah Carey of The Athletic. Guys, Tier 1, Mike Trout, Josh Bell, Francisco Lindor, Gary Sanchez. Steve, is Trout though going to be maybe too chalky to roster in this tier?
No, I mean, I don't mind using Trout in this tier, but I'm looking more towards Josh Bell. They're going to be facing Daniel Norris. He has a 342 WOBA, 4.28 xFIP. 9 of his 12 home runs are allowed to righties. I mean, this whole Pirates lineup, especially near the top, it's just all right-handed bats, and that's what really is going to give Norris trouble here. Bell isn't crushing the ball like he was, but I mean, nobody can keep up that unearthly, expectations that we had of him in the month of May. But he's still averaging 8.6 DK fantasy points over his last 10 games, 4 extra base hits, 9 RBIs in that span. So if everybody's going to be flocking to Trout, I have no problem going with Bell.
Okay, where are you going on this, Jules?
I'm actually thinking exactly like Steve here.
Whoa.
I like Trout. I think
DK
he's
live alert.
But Josh Bell has caught my eye a little bit more here in that opposite hand matchup at home in Pittsburgh. Norris is a guy that he definitely can homer off of. And then the Detroit bullpen is just bottom of the barrel as well. So if Trout's going to, rack up the ownership here, I have no problem going with Josh Bell in equally as good of or an even better spot.
Jonah, we got a Tier 1 Josh Bell sweep.
We don't. I do like the Bell pick, but I like Francisco Lindor just a little bit better. Now, he's priced high. I mean, he's the second highest priced shortstop, but you look at that Texas ballpark, you have to love it. It's the most conducive to offense in the entire American League. And Cleveland, despite their offense being crap this year, has been much better lately. Oscar Mercado's insertion into the number 2 spot in the order in particular has made a big difference. And Lindor and Mercado, that's a little quasi-stack there that you can do. That could work out well for Lindor's number. So, listen, I think Trout could have a good night. I think Bell could have a good night. I like Lindor just a little bit more for the price.
All right, guys. Tier 2 has Austin Meadows, Anthony Rizzo, Starling Marte, Elvis Andrus, and Brandon Lowe. Who's the best option from this group here, Jules?
I think the best option on pure matchup is probably Anthony Rizzo hitting third in an opposite hand matchup against Ivan Nova, who is not very good. Rizzo, he's been decent lately. This should be a spot. He's homered in 2 of his last 3 games, so this should be a spot that you're able to get a homer from Rizzo. But I will say, just to play off of that Josh Bell move, I don't think the Pirates are necessarily going to be really popular on this slate, and you can get Starling Marte in the same exact spot as Josh Bell and just kind of go with a Tier 1, Tier 2 Pirates stack. Starling Marte has been pretty much equally as good as Rizzo lately. He had that 37 DK point game in Atlanta. So I think here you're either looking to stack the Pirates if you went with Bell, or if you want who I think is the best individual play, I would go with Rizzo.
Jonah, who do you like?
Definitely Rizzo. Ivan Nova, he's not just bad, he's really bad. Second highest ERA in all of baseball for any qualified starter. Second lowest strikeout rate for any qualified starter in Major League Baseball. And the thing about the White Sox is the back of their bullpen is actually pretty good. Aaron Bummer and Colomé. But if the White Sox were losing, which they're probably going to because Ivan freaking Nova is pitching, that's an opportunity for Rizzo to pile on 7th inning and 8th inning and 9th inning stats too. So I think Rizzo's going to have a huge game here. He's my pick.
Steve, do you like Rizzo?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be Rizzo here, and that's probably going to be the chalky play of this tier, but that really doesn't bother me here. Rizzo's done some of his best hitting at Wrigley Field against righties, 400 WOBA, 240 isolated power, 6 home runs on the year. I mean, these guys have really stolen all the thunder here. Ivan Nova is just downright terrible. How he's still in a rotation is beyond me, but then again, the Blue Jays still employ Edwin Jackson, so I guess dreams are possible.
All right, guys, tier 3. Who's the best pick? Who's the worst pick as well from this tier, in your opinion, Jonah?
I like Shin-Soo Choo a lot here. His price is pretty reasonable. He's having a really good year at age 36. It snuck up on us a little bit. Overall stats are the second best of his career. How about the fact that he's hitting 301, 400 on base, 570 slugging against right-handers? That is elite. 970 OPS. Really, really very excellent. And you look at it, he's got an opportunity here. He's been hot lately. 8 runs scored in his last 6 games. I like him. I think he's got the kind of guy who can get on base 3 times, score a couple runs for you, and put up some numbers.
Steven, the best pick, the worst pick in tier 3.
Best pick, I think, is JD Martinez. I actually don't really like this tier too much overall. I think, Martinez is probably the best of the bunch here. Jake Arrieta's going up against the Nationals, and while those guys are in that tier, he's been much poorer against lefties. So I think actually both of those guys would be ones that I wouldn't consider at all. Anthony DeSclafani has been good against righties. So I would take out Alex Bregman for me too. But I think the Nationals are going to get a lot of exposure, and I think that's the wrong call there. I think it's definitely Martinez. 11 DK fantasy points over his last 10 games. Has a really, really good matchup against Michael Pineda. So I'm going to give a tie to the Nationals. Bats for the worst pick, and then Martinez is the best.
Okay, Jules, whatever you say, I would recommend people at home do the complete opposite.
Wow.
Just kidding. I love you.
I definitely don't want to play Max Kepler because he's not in the Twins lineup. So I'm pretty confident in saying that you can fade him in this tier. But
okay.
You got the Washington guys. I was pretty high on Washington to start the day, but now we have the rain issues.
Typical.
Yeah, Jake Arrieta, that lineup can hit him, and Philly's bullpen's been a dumpster fire lately. If they could get a game in without some rain, they would score a lot of runs in this game, but they're probably not going to. So hot take, Steve, fade the Nationals. They're in a rain delay already, so we can count them out. So it comes down to the other 3 guys really in this tier, and I am going with JD Martinez over Shin-Soo Choo. It was a close call for me. I like the opposite hand matchup for Choo leading off. But that Cleveland bullpen is pretty good, and they should see a lot of innings in this game. In the end, I'll go with JD Martinez, the most talented player in this tier, the most talented hitter in this tier, against Michael Pineda, and hope that the Red Sox can put up some runs in Minnesota.
All right, good stuff, guys. We'll be right back with Reed and Jeff to talk betting odds for the Travelers.
Right after a dose of Tour Junkies.
Shortest guy I'm going to go with is Tony Finau at 33-1. I love that. I love that play. Finau, just last week, I just don't think it was a great fit for him. But, we've seen at this course, Bubba Watson can win, a long hitter, and then a Kevin Strillman can win in 2014. But I think that fits that sort of Tony Finau style. So, I mean, look, he's not the shorter hitter, but the guy can bomb it off the tee. This is a good fit for him. So I like him at 33-1. Also, one of my favorite plays and Gino's favorite plays on the podcast was Emiliano Grillo, and he is at 40-1. I love that. Gino talked about how just a fantastic ball striker he is, and if he can just catch fire with the putter, he can win any week on tour. And we know how variable putting stats are and everything else. You can hit that any week. So I like Grillo at 40-1. Also, another favorite of both mine and Gino's was Charlie Hoffman at 70-1. Love that play. I think this is a great course for him. He's played well here in the past, checks the boxes, so I love some Charlie Hoffman. Two other guys that I like are Bud Colley at 90-1, a guy that just kind of pops here and there, and I think this is a course. He played well at the Memorial. I think this is somewhat of a similar course, and I think he'll play well here. And then I got to go with Joel Damon at 125-1. I cannot have Gino on the podcast and not take Joel Damon at 125-1. That would be – I'd want to shoot myself in the face on Sunday if he won the tournament and I didn't Joel, as a bet. So there you go.
And it's just people should bet more on golf. They just should. On Sunday, I'm sweating Chez Reavie, who we picked and touted last week on the show, at 250-1. And he finished third, okay? And there are people who are sweating, NFL parlays at 30-1. And I just think golf betting is where it's at. It is so variable. You can get these intermediate to long shot guys. And I think Joel Damon is due to win on the PGA Tour. I think some of these other guys you talked about are good plays as well. I like the Finau call in a weak field. He hasn't been playing that great, but if he can get a hot putter, I think he could run away with it. He's one of those guys that just has that much talent. And so if you're not betting on the PGA Tour and you're betting on, NFL and NBA and God forbid Major League Baseball for whatever reason, you're missing out on a sweat that is just as good, and I think you're more likely to hit in terms of long shots. So
the good guys are back. That would be Reed T. Fowler and Jeff Ulrich, the good golf guys.
Single.
Why is that? Because are you referring just to Reed?
No, just to Jeff.
I'm shocked no one mentioned, by the way, Reed and I wearing the same shirt today.
A blue polo. Wow.
it's phenomenal.
That's crazy.
Anyway, you guys are here to play PGA. What are the odds?
Yeah, so basically,
what are the odds of us wearing the same shirt?
Pretty high because you coordinated it. Basically, we look at some of the DK Sportsbook's long shot bets for this week's Travelers. So, which golfers at plus 10,000 do you like the most, Jeff? A lot of names here.
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier today, obviously. I'm looking at Brian Harman and Russell Henley with an emphasis on Henley, I think. Russell Henley's just he's had an off year. He really hasn't had any top 10s. I think his best finish is a T15 at the Phoenix Open, but this is a player who's been a course horse over his career. We see this at the Shell Houston Open, at the old Shell Houston Open, where he'd come in with no form and then he'd finish in the top 5 and eventually won it one year. It's kind of been the same story at the Travelers. T11 back in 2016, actually had the lead on the back 9. Then he kind of fell apart. Last year he was in the final group. Again, the last group there played bad, but he ended up T6. He's played well at this event. He had a round last year where he had all 18 greens in regulation. Like, this is a guy who can get it going, hit every fairway, hit every green, and if his putter shows up, he will go low on this course. So the recent form doesn't look great, but he shot 65 in Canada, and I like three figures. Like 100 to 1 or better at Russell Henley. I really like that. So he's my favorite player in that range.
Reed, which guy at plus 10,000 do you like the most?
I still have yet to see that whiteboard revised, but I'll let you
We'll
slide.
do it tomorrow. We'll do it tomorrow, dudes. That'll be the day.
All right. I think Russell Henley's he's a fine play. When you look at what he's been able to do, if you look at other corollaries like the Sony Open, for instance, where you get these birdie tracks. We mentioned in the earlier segment, Travelers River Highlands has a susceptibility to give up a lot of birdies. So I don't mind that. But Kyle Stanley, this guy was second to last in strokes gained putting last week, but gained 6 strokes ball striking, and he still made the cut. He was second to last and still made the cut at Pebble. We see Paul Green's a little bent here at River Highlands. And if you just look at what he's been able to do this year specifically, I know Jeff mentioned when you look at course history and Russell Henley, that's fine, but he just hasn't been playing well this year. Stanley's got a top, just outside the top 20 at Augusta, and he had a top 10 at Wells Fargo. Not corollaries exactly to the Travelers here, but when you look at those tougher courses, and yes, they're a little bit longer than what we want or what we're seeing here, a guy like Kyle Stanley at these triple digits, like Jeff mentioned, they're fantastic. Par 4 scoring from that distance of 400 to 450 yards, which there's 8 on this course. That scares you quite a bit because he ranks in about 80th in the field. But if you, again, look at that progressive report of as it gets closer to this tournament, This guy's improving every single time out. He just has to get that flat stick going. So I like him at 100 to 1.
Reed, keep talking, but let's shift gears to guys who are at plus 12,500.
Yeah, I mean, I say this and I preface this where this is sort of take it for what it's worth, but the only guy I trust in this range is Siwoo Kim because we've seen him win. We've seen him do well on Pete Dye courses. He obviously won the Players. That's a tough course. And he came runner-up at the RBC, I believe, with Dustin Johnson that 1 year. We know what his game is, right? You look at these other guys in this range, Kevin Tway, Cam Smith, Nick Watney. Some of them are playing. They've had flashes this season. But again, if you look at Pete Dye courses and the course history, not just here at the Travelers, but then on all the courses that these guys play, Siwoo Kim over the past 50 rounds is second in strokes gained tee to green on these tracks. I mean, that's pretty impressive. Only behind Jason Day, who comes in first over the last 50 rounds. So when you get a guy who loves these type of tracks, who's a ball striker like Siwoo Kim at 125, this is a number where we like him. Not when he gets inflated, when he gives you a top finish and we get him at like 50 or 65 or 70 in that range. At this plus 12,500, that's a good number for him.
Okay, Jeff, this is a good number for which golfer in this range?
I mean, I agree with the Siwoo Kim call. It's whenever you're getting him in an event like this at 120 or plus 12,500, it's completely fine to take a bet on him because he's already won twice. One of the events he won was on the Wyndham, which is a very similar track to this, and he just blew the field away. So it can come at any time with Siwoo Kim. It's completely fine to take him at triple figures, 125 to 1 or better. I don't mind the same mentality with Cameron Smith. Cameron Smith is a player who earlier in the year was going off at like 30 to 1 in some of these events. He's playing really well. He's flashed like top 20 player in the world sort of form at points. And I know he's not playing well right now, but this is the type of player you want to take a shot at when he's at these odds. He's kind of like Siwoo. I mean, if he's at these odds, I don't mind taking a shot at him because we know the talent is there. We've seen him do it in the past, and this venue should be fine for him. It's one he could get his irons going. If he gets the putter going too, could definitely pile up some birdies. So Cam Smith, Siwoo Kim, the two guys from that range for me.
Okay, Jeff, but who do you like at plus 15,000? Huh? What are we thinking?
Plus 15,000. Now we're getting into the real garbage range. My favorite. I like Sebastian Munoz quite a bit, actually. This is a pretty talented young player, Colombian. Did really well on the web.com last year, actually last couple years. He picked up some wins there. And he's gotten himself into contention at some PGA events. His ball striking has been really good over his last 3 starts. I mean, he's top 12 each of his last 3 starts. One of them was the web.com, but the other 2 were PGA events. He's T11 in Canada, was 5th in birdies made up in Canada as well. I just like Sebastian Munoz. He's a player who makes a lot of birdies, can get himself in contention in an event like this. I think 151 is just fine. A couple other garbage names I'll throw out. Steven Yeager, who is T14 in Canada, can really pile up the birdies. And Ollie Schneider-Jans, I think you're going to see a bounce back from Ollie this week. He's up there really high in the odds. I don't mind taking a shot with him either.
Reed, who do you like?
Yeah, I knew Jeff was going to go with Ollie Schneider-Jans. We
have this exact same hair. So I mean,
exactly. I will say this, though. He did mention, right, that he's really close to putting it all together. And when we see that, too, when players say that, they're usually pretty spot on with them coming the next week and doing pretty well. So I don't mind that Ollie call at all. But in this range, Troy Merritt is a guy for me. I usually am not on a guy like Troy Merritt, but he's got the best beard on the PGA Tour. The thing is just luscious and thick. So I do enjoy that. But if we look at stats-wise, I mean, the top 10 in 2017 here. We saw a top 10 at the RBC this year. And so, again, going along that theme of Pete Dye courses, a guy like Troy Merritt who gets that ball striking on these shorter courses where you need to be in the right position off the tee into that approach. Into these small and slow greens, Troy Merritt does pop for me. Number 1 in opportunities gained, which is within 15 feet, either on the green or on the fringe. Again, these greens are small, right? And that's how this defense or the course is going to play defense on these guys is more so the pin placements as opposed to the length, obviously. And if the wind or the rain potentially doesn't pick up, which is usually the defense on this course, it's going to be the pin placement. So I want these guys who are going to get close to the hole. Troy Merritt is there. Some other garbage guys, if we're on that theme. Dylan Fratelli at plus 25,000. I think you can look at him. Alex Prue, another guy who played well last week. Didn't get that putter going, but I like these guys, even if they did bad putting last week, getting an experience on POA at least once before, and then Julian Etulon at plus 60,000. Make sure if you can get those top 5, top 10 numbers as well. But those are some real long shots that I'm looking at as well.
All right, guys, fantastic work. We will be talking to both of you tomorrow more about the Travelers Championship because tomorrow's Wednesday.
Right. Plenty more to come on the sweat, though, including your chat with Nomar Mazara.
Let's go.
Tyler Sullivan here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. The NBA draft is drawing closer, and the New Orleans Pelicans are primed for a big night. Duke superstar Zion Williamson is a lock for the number 1 overall pick, but thanks to the Anthony Davis trade with the Lakers, they now also own the number 4 overall pick, and it's there where there could be some fireworks. According to a report from The Athletic, the Pelicans have their eye on Bradley Beal, who they are monitoring for a potential trade with that number 4 overall selection. The Wizards have remained firm that they do not want to trade Beal and would rather build around him. That said, though, Washington could be forced to move on from Beal before he's eligible for the Supermax contract, because they've already handed that to the injured point guard John Wall. It doesn't make much sense for Washington to open up their wallets again. Given Wall's injury, Beal is the more tradable asset at the moment. And thanks to the AD trade, New Orleans now has the assets to make a compelling offer to Washington, and if they pull it off, they could be instant contenders in the Western Conference.
Back here on the sweat, where we've got a new addition to the party right now. Say what's up to Rangers outfielder Nomar Mazara. We appreciate you making time for us, man.
Anytime. Thank you guys for having me here.
It's good to have you. So your division, it's pretty doggone competitive right now and in the mix for a wild card spot. So what's been the biggest difference between this year and last year when you guys finished 5th in the AL West?
I mean, last year was a rough year for us, and now we got a new coaching staff. We got Woody, he played a long time in the big leagues. He got a good relationship with us. And we got a bunch of new faces. And, since it's been training, we knew this team, it was going to be something special. We work our butt outs in the offseason. And, all the information that we got now with the hitting coach and all those guys, we're just taking it out there and having fun with them. And just, like they say, we just keep passing the baton. And we're doing some great things right now.
Yeah, and 25-12 at home. I mean, the weather is scorching hot in Arlington. That's no secret. So put on your science or meteorology hat right now. Does the heat really help the ball travel farther?
That's what they say, though. We don't really care about that, but that's what everybody said. And it's getting hotter here. It's not even close from what it's gonna get. It gets super hot here. You get 100 something. It's only 80 here. It's still nice.
Okay,
but
all right.
What everybody says, the ball travels more when it get hot. So,
how excited are you for the retractable roof then?
Yeah, one more year, bro. One more year. Next year we're gonna be fine.
All right. So, who on the team can't stand the heat the most? Someone who's a little more sensitive to it. It's I just can't do it today.
I think everybody though. For most of the part, I'm always complaining about it, and Gallo too. So.
Well, whatever you're doing, it's working. You're on a pace right now for a career high in home runs. So, what has been working for you?
I was working on something since last year, just trying to keep my hands closer to my body because I have such a long arms. And if I get around the ball, I'm going to be able to hit the ball how I wanted to. And I just, try to stay tight and short to the ball. That's what I think was been the key this year. And I started a little slow, but I wasn't getting any results. That's why. But I was hitting the ball pretty good. But now I'm seeing the results, and hopefully continue to do that.
Yeah, we'll reverse here. We'll rewind here a couple of years. I mean, you actually went yard in your first major league game. So, what details do you remember from not only that game, but from that entire day? Because I hear it started with a very early flight.
Yeah, for sure. I was in Iowa, and they called me up, so I have to go back to – I played only 3 games that year in AAA. So Chu got hurt, and I was the only option there. So they called me up. They were in Anaheim. So I got on the plane at 4 a.m. in the morning. So it was a long day. I was excited. I told my agent to call my family, and I got there. I was playing. I was hitting second. I never hit second before in my life. So I was like, okay. So my first at bat, I got a single. So I was like, okay, this is going pretty good. But I wasn't nervous until I went to play defense, and I see all the people there. I was like, damn, I'm in the big leagues now. That was crazy.
Yeah, a lot more people than I'm sure you typically see at the AAA level.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're still the 5th Rangers player to have 3 hits in his major league debut, so you've got that going for you, which is nice. But you're also on the All-Star ballot. I know most guys don't really like to talk about themselves, so we're going to give you a choice here. You can tell the people at home why they should vote for you, or you can campaign for one of your teammates. So who should people vote for?
For Gallo, I want to see that guy in the All-Star game. Yeah, he's especially in the home run derby. I don't think people know how strong he is, and because I mean they've seen the bombs that he hit in the game, but I think his BP is unreal, man. Like if we get back healthy, I want him hitting to go to the All-Star game and be able to see him in the home run derby.
You're a humble teammate. I can pick up on that. So the the MLB draft, though, wrapped up a few weeks ago. You took a different path to the majors. You signed as an international free agent in 2011. I mean, you signed at 16. How quickly did your life change at that point?
Man, it was crazy, though, because I was 16 years old, coming from the Dominican. I have to leave, like, everybody, just come here by myself. I went to Arizona, and, it was crazy just to go to another country by yourself. And I didn't know English back in the days. So, I didn't like the food. I didn't know anything there, especially in Arizona. It was nothing there, just a Chipotle. And I didn't like Chipotle back in the days. Now I love it. But it was crazy, man. It was crazy. But the Rangers did they did a great job with me and everybody. Every young kid they come to their organization. So, I got to thank the Rangers a lot for that.
And where'd your name come from? Because I'm told that some people might think you're named after the other Nomar, Garciaparra.
Yeah, my dad actual name is Ramon too, so Raymond. So
Okay.
Backwards is Nomar. So that's why I got it from.
We hear you like a little bit of basketball. You're a big LeBron guy. So
Yeah.
So what's your take on the Anthony Davis trade here?
Oh man, it's gonna be he got his guy now. That's what he wanted, and he got it now. So I think it's gonna be fun next year. So they still can get a couple guys more.
Yeah.
See.
You think he maybe LeBron reunites with Kyrie Irving?
Maybe, you never know.
Yeah, I think people in Boston might be ready to see him.
It'll be fun,
see
man.
him
It's gonna
go.
be fun.
Nomar Mazara of the Rangers, good talking to you. Keep crushing it, man, and thanks for joining DraftKings.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for having me.
Into the 8s, you like Louis, but there's 3 other guys right below him that are projected to come in at super low ownership, which I was kind of surprised by. One of them is Phil, who I have at like 2%. Snedeker I have at like 6%, and Patrick Reed I have at like 5%. I don't have a good feel for any of these guys, but those numbers intrigue me.
Yeah, I think for me it would be Reed. I just always like Patrick Reed in these situations because it always feels like he waits until everyone's kind of fed up and everyone's like, oh, Patrick Reed he sucks again, and then he just pops up with like a top 10 or a top 5 or he wins, right? Patrick Reed's been making cuts. I mean, he's doing his Patrick Reed thing. He doesn't put up like gaudy stats, but he's still playing solid. He's grinded out to obviously everyone saw the club snap last week, which will probably just get more people off him because they figure he's on complete tilt right now. But I don't mind paying $8,500 for Patrick Reed. I think of these 3, he's the closest. I know Snedeker had that massive putting week in Hamilton, but expecting him to come through again, and I don't really like paying like a little bit of a premium for Snedeker either. I feel like, if he was more in the 8K range this week, I'd be a little bit more interested, but I'm just not that interested in Brad Snedeker at that price. And for me, of those 3, it'd be Patrick Reed. Phil is kind of interesting. Like you said, 2%. I mean, he's kind of played these easier setups a much better later in his career than the tougher ones. So there's definitely some value there. But for me, it would be Reed.
Phil hasn't played this tournament in like 10 years, but he did win in back-to-back years in the early 2000s. So it's not like he's completely unfamiliar with this course. They love him up in New England as well, and he tends to play pretty well up there too. So
probably has a house there, Pat.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he has a house everywhere. When you make as much money as Phil Mickelson, you can do whatever you want. But what do we do with Bubba?
Yeah,
I'm not feeling him this year. I mean, I hit him to win here last year. I had a really good Travelers Championship, both in betting and on DraftKings last year, and that was mainly due to both Bubba Watson and JB Holmes. Those guys really came through for me, but just I don't know what to do with him. He showed up at Valspar this year and played well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a frustration. I don't think he's going to win. Like, I don't think he's going to necessarily come through, but who knows? I mean, he's not hitting it poorly off the tee or anything like that. And I mentioned off the top of the show how well he drives it here. It's actually kind of insane. But I'm not feeling it either. His putting has just been so bad this year, like really bad in stretches. There's just no confidence. It feels like he's not really in the zone of caring that much. And he got those 3 wins last year. Maybe it's just a little bit of a side effect that he's having a letdown season, and that's fine. But I agree. I feel like the field is so much deeper now. You don't necessarily have to go there with Bubba. You can take a chance with a guy like Reed, who's got plenty of upside on his own. You can go down and play like Kokrak or Hoffman. And I'm just not feeling Bubba either. I'm in the exact same place. This is after watching him chase down a couple of my guys here last year. So I know what he can do, but I just don't think you're going to see a repeat. You might see a decent week. He might even get in the top 10, but I don't think he's going to win. So DraftKings, like I said, I think I'd rather play Louis.
Alrighty, guys, last block of the sweat coming your way on top of a couple weather delays already between the Nationals and Phillies, between the Yankees and Rays. The newest one added to the menu, Reds and Astros will be delayed due to inclement weather.
So a lot of rain going on.
Lots and lots of weather. Imagine that.
Here,
and speaking of weather, how about the segment that is named after a man who loves weather?
Steve does not love weather, but he is here along with Julian Edlow and the Athletics' Jonah Carey, and basically Steve puts up his bukes. These guys try to fight him on it. Steve usually yells at people. It's very exciting. So Steve, your first buke, please, along with DK point projections.
And let's just make it clear. Weather is a factor in some things. Football, it's so overblown. Everyone just becomes a big wimp when it comes to weather.
Overblown? Overblown?
I get it.
Did you get it?
Nice work, Steve. Real nice.
Oh, man.
All right, so let's talk about Ozzy Albies for 14 DK fantasy points. Look, he definitely has a tough matchup against Jacob deGrom. I totally get that, but it's going to drive his ownership down. Right now, the Braves have to arguably be one of the hottest teams in baseball right now, and Albies has been absolutely locked in pretty much the entire month of June. 465 WOBA, 333 isolated power, 4 home runs, 6 doubles, and 15 RBI. Let's just say Jacob deGrom goes 5 or 6 innings in this game. The Mets bullpen is absolutely atrocious. They've been ranked one of the worst in the league all season long, and over the past week, they have been the worst bullpen in the league right now. I just feel like this is a really sneaky spot to get Albies. Really, the Braves as a whole at this point, if they are able to get deGrom, you're going to be in a really, really good position here. But Albies especially is someone I'm targeting.
All right, Albies, 16 DK fantasy points. Jonah, how do you feel about it?
Steve is the Sisyphus of the sweat. What is going on here? Why are you trying to make this hard for yourself? No, not Ozzy Albies. No, I don't understand this pick against Jacob deGrom. Yes, it's going to be low ownership or whatever, but you can find low ownership elsewhere at an easier spot. Jacob deGrom is back to being Jacob deGrom. He's given up either 1 or 2 runs in his last 5 starts, 8 of his last 9, either 0, 1, or 2. He's Jacob deGrom. He's not going to get hit. Could Albies get a hit in his last at-bat when the Mets bullpen comes in after deGrom has sparkled for 7 innings? Sure, that's entirely possible. But again, it's just too hard. You're creating a situation that you're boxing yourself in, and you're depending on that late hit in the game. I don't like it. I don't like this pick at all.
Julian, he has had hits in 8 of his last 9 games. What do you think?
It's definitely a hot bat here. He's averaging 15.4 DK points over his last 10 games. He's gone over 20 in consecutive games. But no, I'm not chasing this for 4,500, a guy batting 8th in the order against Jacob deGrom. We have no reason. Steve's right. He is going to be low owned. Nobody pays 4,500 for a guy hitting 8th against a guy that won the Cy Young last year. The Mets bullpen is bad. Steve's dead on with that. But I just think there are better spots on this slate where we don't have to spend pretty big chunks of salary on guys in the back of the order against a guy in deGrom that does have the potential to go 7 or 8 innings. Albies in his career is just 4 for 23 against deGrom. So I don't see why this is the spot that he's going to have a big game off him while he's hitting at the back end of the order when he's typically much higher up at other times in his career.
Steven, your second buke, a man who is a candidate for the MLB All-Star game right now.
Well, just really quick, Julian, Jonah, cowards. Okay. I got that written down for future reference. We're going to go with Pedro Severino for 14 DK fantasy points. If you guys want to disregard this one, then you know what? We might just have to cancel this whole segment because nobody knows what they're talking about except me. Pedro Severino is a guy that you roster when he's facing left-handed pitching. On the road in these type of matchups, 493 WOBA, 545 isolated power against lefties on the road. Granted, it is not the best ballpark tonight. I will definitely give you that. But Brett Anderson gives up a lot of hard contact, 41.4% to righties. He's had his issues in Oakland as well. I love this spot for Severino. He's up in the order. I believe he's batting third tonight. He's not that expensive either. So 14 DK fantasy points I don't think is out of the question here.
Jules, what do you think about this point projection?
Yeah, I mean, Ozzie Albies was putting up a Buke. That's a guy we can fight about. This is just putting up your bucks. This is how are we supposed to fight about this guy? A catcher that's under $4,000 in an opposite hand matchup, batting third. That's like the ideal value spot that you would want to look for, particularly at catcher, because it's a position that's so hard to find, a really relevant hitter. And now we have it. A cheap guy high in the order in an opposite hand matchup. He's hitting 273, 8 home runs, 18 RBI. This guy should be locked into your cash game lineups at catcher, and he's even worth eating some chalk on in GPPs because there's plenty of other places to differentiate your lineup. So, yeah, this is probably like the best catcher play on the slate. I don't know why I would argue with it.
All right, Jonah, can you find a way to argue right now with Steven, or is this that great of a pick?
I think this is the best Buke I've encountered since I've started doing this
it's
segment.
A buck. It's a buck.
Here.
No, it's a Buke.
It's a good one. It's a
buck.
It's a buck or a Buke. We can't really be sure. But here's the thing. Severino's capable of big things. Just 2 weeks ago, 3 bombs in one game. It's not just that he might get 14 points. He might blow by. He could be a winner tonight. So we'll be interested to see if Julian's right that he ends up being chalked because he's a catcher, because he's third in the order, whatever, because smart DFS players are onto him, or if there is a little under the radar potential just because it's Pedro Severino who doesn't have that big a pedigree. But sure, love this pick here.
Okay, so Steve, your second Buke, it was widely loved by everybody. How about your third and final Buke?
Emerson, not a friend.
Oh, wow.
Jeez,
you don't mean that.
You hate
it's
to
okay.
see that.
You're just saying that for attention. You don't mean it. I know.
You brought up the forbidden 4-letter word that it doesn't begin with an F, okay? That's just like, you can't do that, all right? Let's talk about J.P. Crawford here. It was going to be Teoscar Hernandez, but I guess apparently he sprained his wrist, so he's being too much of a baby and he doesn't want to play tonight, so whatever. We'll talk about J.P. Crawford. He's going up against Homer Bailey. Really, the whole Mariners lineup should be a consideration tonight when you're going up against Homer Bailey. But I do like Crawford. His numbers against righties aren't terrible. 344 WOBA, 167 isolated power against righties. But what's the more enticing part is how Homer Bailey has been on the road against lefties. That is a 375 WOBA, 3 of his 8 home runs allowed. Granted, it's in Safeco, it's in Seattle, but this is a spot where the Mariners should tee off against Bailey. The Royals bullpen really isn't anything special either after that. Crawford's been someone who's had some decent power this year too as well. So, again, with the salary that he is, 10 DK fantasy points, I don't think it's totally crazy.
Jules, do you think it's totally crazy?
It's not totally crazy. What did he say? 10 DK points?
Yeah.
Yeah, I said it like
why would that be crazy for a guy that's 3,500 hitting second in the order in an opposite hand matchup against Homer Bailey on the road? Homer Bailey sucks on the road. He has a 6.75 ERA. He sucks against lefties. It's a creative value pick, much like the Severino one, I think. So I think it's a guy that can easily be targeted on this slate. He's shown upside if you scroll through his game log. In his last 5 games, he has a 16 DK point game, a 14 DK point game. He averages more, I think almost a full DK point more at home versus on the road. So he's been better at Safeco. I think it's a fine pick.
Thanks.
Jonah, do you think this pick is a fine pick?
You can come off the list, Jonah. You can come off the list.
This is good. Apparently, I'm off the list, too. Crawford's been pretty good since coming off the injured list, too. 4 games back, 7 times on base, and 4 runs batted. And he's a pretty good hitter. It's nice to see him getting an opportunity in Seattle. 10 points isn't a big number. The only thing I'll say to close this out is you should be thankful that you took Teoscar Hernandez off of the list, because Teoscar Hernandez
that was a bad
hitter on a terrible team, and I was ready to just absolutely unleash the hounds of hell. So I'm not having to be held back.
Against lefties. Look at his numbers against lefties.
That was very unfortunate.
You want to talk about Trevor? Look at it. Go look up the numbers, and then you can talk to me on Twitter. That was a great pick.
Gentlemen, we have 45 seconds left. Lineups lock in 5 minutes. Let's get those slate-approved picks quickly. Julian.
Come back to me. Sorry.
Okay,
Wow.
Steven, are you prepared?
Quick.
Yeah, as usual. Red Sox stack against Michael Pineda. Boom, ready.
Okay, Jonah.
Anthony Rizzo destroys Ivan Nova, goes yard twice.
Julian, you can make up for yourself looking like an idiot right now.
Yeah, Josh Bell. I blanked there. Also, fade everybody on Put Up Your Bukes.
Oh, Severino? Okay.
Awesome,
Idiot.
guys.
Great
Thank
work,
you.
gentlemen. Excellent stuff. The Sweat will be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. along with myself and Emerson Lotzia. So we'll see you tomorrow at 6 p.m.